Hey everyone, Philip here, and welcome to another episode of Phasing Forward. And because we're doing 2 episodes a week, like I said last time, today we are covering episodes 3 and 4 of Loki. And once again, as always, I am joined by Zen. How are you doing, Zen?
Hi everybody, I'm Zenith Warrior Princess, the cutest of buns. And I've been pretty busy. It's been a month. Exploding month, you know, where people like to launch fireworks and scare the bejesus out of me and cause me anxiety and nightmares. Good, thank you for that.
Yeah, so if at any point of this you just hear fucking fireworks in the background, then now you know why.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of fireworks. Don't really do that very much, but yeah, I'm a big fan of playing video games and stuff that I'm doing right now. And things are getting mysteriouslier because I'm playing through Borderlands 3 and just, Dead Space 3, and I finished Ahead in Time, and I'm doing lots of video gaming and Star Wars, and it's just all of the things. All of the things.
But today we are doing the Marvel thing, like we've been doing the Marvel thing since January. So today's episodes, episode 3 and 4, episode 3 being titled Lamentis and episode 4 being titled The Nexus Event. I guess we'll just, like always, jump into general thoughts about it. So what did you think of, I guess let's start with episode 3 and we'll get into episode 4 later on. So we'll see, who's watching by then and who's listening by then to see, But anyway, what did you think of episode 3?
I'm gonna be honest, episode 3 is probably my least favorite episode. I don't think it's a bad episode and it's nice breathing room from all the stuff that's happened before, but I watched these episodes twice back to back, and to be honest, I feel like there's too many action scenes. I do feel like we could have learned just a little bit more about Sylvie. I know that the door is wide open in episode 4, but we don't learn a lot in episode 3, and I feel like if we had learned just maybe a little bit more, but overall, it's a good episode still. I liked it, but the first one had the emotional, powerful, really gripping scene, and it had this really interesting setup. And then episode 2 was funny with the buddy cop dynamic, and it really, like, you were wondering where it was going. Episode 3 is very straightforward. It's very much like, alright, well, he tracks down Sylvie, and they get stranded on a planet, and they have to get off. And it's a character piece, and we learn a lot more about Loki, and I really like, the Asgardian singing parts and stuff, learning about who Loki is as a character, but we don't get enough about Sylvie aside from she's guarded and she's reserved, and, like, we kind of already got that. So I just would have liked a little bit more. And again, I think there was too many action scenes. Like, there seemed to be an action scene, like, every 5 minutes, to be honest. I mean, you have the opening action scene, then you have the action scene when they're starting on the planet, and then you have the action scene on the train, and then the action scene at the ending. It was too much for me.
Personally speaking, I actually really loved episode 3. I did say it was my favorite episode of the series so far, but I think that with episode 4, it's kind of been trumped because I feel like everything episode 3 did was done even better in episode 4. But episode 3, I really love because, I've seen a lot of people online say that the episode is filler, and it's not filler, like, because there is important parts in it. But I can see where people are coming from when they say that, because in terms of, like, the overall plot of the series, it doesn't move it along like the episodes 1, 2, and 4 did. It just, like, adds more information. But not really, it didn't really progress the story. It was just Loki and Sylvie on the planet. Oh, and we do find out, yes, her name is Sylvie, because we do find out she is a Loki I'll get to this in a second. Let me just give my general thoughts, and then we'll jump into that, because there's actually something I want to talk about with that. Following on from the last episode, because I saw a comment regarding this, and I want to bring it up. But regardless, so the episode, the reason why I really love the episode is because we get to see Loki and Sylvie just progressively, just progressively building on their chemistry, and just I can't talk today. I'm just fumbling over my words. We get to see them, their chemistry build, and we get to see we get to build upon what we've been seeing from Loki since the start of this series, and just seeing, how he works. And and the reason why I think it works so well in this episode is because we're seeing it, through the lens of him talking to literally another version of himself. And I feel like through that lens, we get to see Loki for who he truly is, as opposed to seeing him interacting with someone else. Because we're seeing Loki talk to another version of himself, there's a level of honesty there that we would otherwise not get with any other character. And I feel like that works really well in focusing on what the series has been trying to go for, that being seeing what truly does make Loki tick, as Mobius keeps saying in the series. So, and I really love it, because I love the fact that it is a character piece. As for the action scenes, I don't think they were too much. It was definitely the most action. It was definitely the most action heavy episode of the series thus far. But I've also seen the criticism up until now that there hasn't been enough action in the series. And I don't mind that, because I do love how talkative the show has been. But I do think that you do need a little bit of action in there, as opposed to just backloading it all into the end of the series. So the fact that they did put some action in here was, honestly welcome for me. And besides, I do really love seeing Tom Hiddleston and Sophia DiMartino just kicking ass together. So yeah, I really loved it. I really loved it. I get the criticisms that are launched at it, but I personally really, really love the execution.
Here's my end. It's I don't think this is a bad episode. Again, I really love Loki's Asgardian singing. I love the interactions between him and Sylvie. And a lot of people have criticized the writing of this episode. I'm no. They are behaving like children because it is Loki. Yeah. He is a child. He may be thousands of years old, but he is a literal child. And as we'll see later, Sylvie pretty much never was allowed to grow up. So
yeah,
they are both children in different ways, and I think that's perfect. I like their banter. I like the way they work off each other. I like the way that Loki's well, why do you keep trying to hit me? Let's stop and talk this out. It makes sense why Sylvie doesn't trust him, because she's been hunted her whole life, and there are things that I love about this episode. I just feel like they could have taken maybe one of those action scenes and just had a little bit more of exploring certain other things that were going on. Because, the final action scene is needed. The train action scene is needed. The opening action scene where they're trying to get in there, okay, that's needed. But her trying to fight Loki for half the film, for half the episode, I don't know. I feel like she could have kept her guard up without trying to hit him all the time, if that makes sense.
Maybe, but at the same time, this is someone who, and this is a good point. I forget who in our Discord server pointed this out, but it was someone in our server pointed this out, where when you really take this into account, Loki is someone who is who I think is 1,000 years old. He's at least 700, at least several hundreds of years old. But I think he's up to 1,000. That means that Sylvie is almost, if not the same age as our Loki. So she has had to be on guard for literally hundreds of years of her life. So I don't blame her for being so hostile, for being so hostile and attacking Loki like that, when, she probably put her trust in other people as well. and she's just and they've just backstabbed her, like just like, well, I mean, just like how a Loki would backstab anyone, but like, you know, that's beside the point. So I don't really blame her for being like that hostile, essentially.
I mean, perhaps it would have been better if the ending of the last episode, like if the previous episode had ended with them going through the portal after Sylvie fighting the people there. Because that way you could have that ending fight and still have that cliffhanger. And I think it would still work because then you wouldn't have as many action scenes in the episode. I don't know.
Basically, just move. Basically, just move. So what you're saying is basically just move the start, like the opening action piece, like where they're in the TVA, in episode 3 to the end of episode 2. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, because like it wouldn't make the episode too much longer, but it would allow us a little bit more chance to breathe. But still, like I do love the way they interact and how he uses the more guile approach. Whereas she is just like the fighty fight approach, and I love the like, oh, you got to use guile and cunning, and then you know it doesn't work. But then again, he's just like, well, we have to use intelligence for this next plan. And it's like, well, this plan doesn't involve fighting. All your plans involve fighting. That's really good, like dialogue and dynamic, because that's what separates these two Lokis, is that one has been fighting for so long, whereas the other one has just a master of cunning, trickery, and plans, and I like that difference. And another thing that I want to mention here. These aren't the same people. Like, Sylvie and Loki, they may be two different versions of Loki, but they're different enough, and they're different in very big ways. And I think that distinction is important because their relationship with each other is interesting. Their dynamic is interesting. It's not the same person, but because they have this bond for being different versions of the same person, it really makes a difference in my opinion how they interact with each other.
And I feel like that's all symbolized like via, I don't know if symbolized is the right word, but like it's all shown with the fact that, like, you know, Sylvie has changed her name from Loki to Sylvie. She doesn't want to be called Loki anymore. She calls herself Sylvie. That is her new name. And the fact that, like, you know, initially Loki himself is kind of like, okay, whatever about it. But then come episode 4, when everyone is still calling her a Loki variant, you know, Loki is persistent. Like, no, her name is Sylvie. And eventually Mobius does the same thing, because Mobius is just a fucking great guy. But I feel like that really just shows how she isn't the same. Like no, like, even if you have like alternate versions of yourself, they're not all gonna be the same people. Like, you will encounter versions of yourself that are just completely different to you, because there are just always gonna be different people. And I feel like that ties in perfectly to where I think the series is going from here. Because we have the Timekeepers, or I guess not, but we'll get to that in episode 4. But we have this sacred timeline. There has to be one written, like, rule of, like, how things are supposed to go that you can't deviate from. You cannot deviate from this one singular timeline. And I feel like the whole point is now just going to be breaking that sacred timeline and allowing things to branch off, because you shouldn't just be confined to like one sacred one direction that you have to go. You should be free to choose however you want to present yourself, however you want to like be seen, how, like, all that stuff. And I feel like Sylvie is the perfect encapsulation of that theme, and I really love the way that they handle it with her. And of course it also does come back to Loki's gender fluidness, which is the thing I want to talk about. So
I have something that I do want to talk about later too, but you start with that.
Okay, so Seraphim left his comment last time, like he usually does. Thank you, Seraphim, as always.
Thank you, Seraphim. We do love your comments. I read them after the fact, and I do enjoy them.
Mm-hmm. But there was one thing that he pointed out in his comment that I kind of just really wanted to address here, because I felt it important. So, because last episode, essentially, what I ended up going into was that, like, because there was the possibility that that Sylvie could have been the Enchantress, that she could be the Enchantress, it would have made it so that that the show would have been baiting us with gender fluid rep and then pulling the rug from underneath us and being like, oh no, it's, it's actually just the Enchantress. And I said that would piss me off if that's like what they were gonna do. But luckily that's not what ended up happening. So and Lady Loki is just like the Lady Loki that we see in the series is an amalgamation of both the Enchantress and Lady Loki, and they basically smush those two characters into one. And I really like that. I think that's a really good way to handle it. Seraphim, and because Seraphim commented after episode 3 had already been out, I'm just trying to find where he mentioned it in the comment itself, because I have the comment up on my phone right now. He said, in regards to this, this is why you hold off on spiels about things that could happen that would piss you off before they happen, and see what really does happen. And I want to address this. Really want to address this. Here's the thing. I don't take chances when it comes to LGBT rep. I've seen LGBT rep be done poorly so many times in media that I don't take chances with it. And I don't regret going on that spiel, because the thing about it is that, like, I was still only talking about stuff that could happen. I outright said, I hope this doesn't happen, and if it doesn't happen, then I will be, like, over the moon. And it didn't, and I am over the moon, because, like, nothing has contradicted the gender fluid rep that the show has been giving. It has some really, really good rep. And Zen was even saying in the video that, like, you didn't think that that's where they were going, and you ended up being right. So it wasn't that, like, it wasn't so much that, like, I was saying, it wasn't so much that I was saying, like, oh my god, like, this has been leaked, this is gonna happen, this is gonna, like, I don't like this. This was me saying, like, this is something that has come up, and it's something that I'm now being weary of, because I don't want to be burned when it eventually turns out that it's not Lady Loki and it's the Enchantress. It's one of those things where it's like, I always consider every possibility, I don't consider every possibility. That's like, I'm not playing some kind of 4D chess whenever I watch a show, but like,
Are you Batman? Are you Batman?
Am I Batman? Maybe. No, I'm not. I'm not edgy enough to be Batman. But, I always like, when I see things that stick out like that, I always like to take that into consideration and go, okay, this could happen. How do I feel if this does happen? And so I don't like, so I don't regret going on that spiel, especially because it is something as important, like, as LGBT rep. And especially because we're talking about gender fluidness, which, again, I'm gender fluid. So, like, it's something I absolutely want to talk about. Sorry, just want to, like, get that out of the way. Still love you, Seraphim. Just want to respond to that.
There is something that I do want to comment in that regard.
Yep.
And it's related to trans rep. And I don't know if this is the intention.
Mm-hmm.
But especially after episode 4, which we're going to get into, I have to wonder if Sylvie is an analogy for being trans, because of the way, like, the whole point of everything going on with her feels like the plight of a trans person, where she's not allowed to exist. She's hunted and persecuted everywhere she goes. She can't get a moment's rest. She has to always be, like, and everyone refers to her as Loki when she wants to be known as Sylvie, and
yeah,
only the people who actually trust her and take the time to learn about her take it seriously and understand what it means to her just to be herself. And like, at this point we don't know what the Nexus event was, but just it seemingly is just her existing. And I don't know, like, there's just a lot there that really is, it feels like trans representation to me. And we have gender fluid for Loki. What if this is the trans rep? What if this is the existential LGBT series? And
I feel like, it's weird that, like, of all the MCU things to, like, finally talk about like LGBT, like major LGBT characters, it's Loki that ends up being that series. But like I'm all for it because we have already like gender fluid rep with Loki. We also find out in this episode that Loki is bi, which is just a great thing to throw in there. And yep. Sylvie, even if Sylvie isn't explicitly trans, because from what I can tell, like she was born as a girl, but like but because it's not what she's supposed to be in quotation marks, she's hunted and persecuted for it. So there's a lot of parallels there that you can draw to her being like trans rep. So I feel like that could go either way with her, either her being like gender fluid or her being like an allegory for trans representation. So, but yeah, the show has done really well with its LGBT rep. So like I am happy about like where it's going when it comes to that. So.
And yeah. I mean, it's not just me reading into a lot of this stuff. Like, gender fluidness is explicit to Loki. Gender fluidness is explicit to Loki's character. In the comics, they show it clearly on display here. And like, they explicitly state that, he had courted both princes and princesses. Like, these are things that are outright text. The trans part is me reading into things, but it's something that's very obviously hammered home with the way Sylvie speaks and the way she's spoken to. So yeah, like it just, to me, this is very good LGBT rep, especially trans, even if I am reading into things for what I'm seeing.
Yeah. I feel like with Sylvie, it could apply to both gender fluid and to trans people. So I feel like I don't feel like you're reading too much into it, because I feel like I think a lot of the the story around Sylvie applies to like the story as a whole, and so I feel like because of that, I don't feel like it's reading too much into it. So I think you're on like generally the right track with your read of Sylvie there. So yeah,
I mean. So far, this story is about existentialism, asking questions, probing for answers. Like, the whole time, we're questioning what is going on, who the timekeepers are, what their deal is, and that leads to episode 4, which only raises further questions. So yeah, like, there's a very big existential message about choices and whether or not we should fight against them or just go with the status quo. And I don't really have much more to say about episode 3. I think it's alright, but I want to talk about episode 4.
Yeah, I don't have much to add about episode 3 either. The one other thing I want to touch upon with episode 3 is that it was written by fucking phone just went on sleep mode. Not sleep mode, but whatever. The episode was written by Bisha K. Ali. I'm probably mispronouncing that name. Sorry, but she is, I believe, one of the showrunners for Miss Marvel. I don't know if she's like this. I think she's the head writer actually. But either way, she's working on Miss Marvel, and if this episode is any indication of, because Miss Marvel, of course, is the whole hook of Miss Marvel is that it's a down to earth character driven a character driven series around Kamala and and the people in her life. So if this is how if this is just a taste of what we can get in that series, then consider me really excited. I was already really excited for the Miss Marvel series, but like if this is just a taste of like what could happen then like I'm pumped. I am so pumped to see what happens. But yeah.
I am very intrigued. I don't know too much about Miss Marvel, but if it's any bit as hype as you keep making it out to be, then we'll be good for it.
Yep. And that's not too far from now, because in terms of Disney Plus shows, we have like What If, and then Miss Marvel's out. So yeah, I'm still very much looking forward to it. I'm really excited to see how they handle it. and how they handle Kamala's character. But with that being said, that's our thoughts of episode 3. Now let's jump into episode 4, the Nexus Event. What did you, and starting with you, of course, because I always like to ask everyone else besides myself. So what did you think of episode 4?
I have a lot to say about this one, and this is a big reason why I'm glad we're doing this in 2 parts. I didn't have much to say about the last episode. In summation, what the fuck? Like, what in the fuck? Like, okay, but wait, what? This episode is very much the shoe dropping, and we're finally getting to see. All right, like we're starting to get a little bit closer to answers, and the rug is just pulled right out from under us several times, and I am so intrigued to see where this goes, because I'm kind of like I kind of called the timekeepers not being on the level when I brought up the time breaker theory, because I figured that something was going to happen, but like legit there's so much here that I'm curious about. Like, is Mobius's former friend in on everything? Because we know, like, she's pretending, but is she pretending because she believed in the timekeepers, or for some other reason? And like, there's
she absolutely knows something, like, because like, yeah, I feel like she absolutely knows something. Like, I don't think Ravonna is the person in charge, because just because like of generally like how the episode ends and how everything is presented. I don't really think she's the one in charge of everything, but I do think that she like knows much more of like what's going on, as opposed to like than she initially seems. So like, yeah, I don't think she's the one in charge, but like after all, everyone has been like making the Kang connections because Ravonna is Kang's wife in the comics. So I still don't think they're gonna do Kang this early. I feel like the events of this series are more so going to like apply to what's gonna happen in Ant-Man and the Wasp, as opposed to Kang just showing up here. But like, yeah, I it could happen. It could very well happen, but I just don't know if Kang's gonna like actually pop up in this series. Like as a post-credit scene or mid-credit scene in the final episode, then that could very, very well be possible. Like, very, very well be possible. But like, as a full-on like reveal and like main villain of the show, I don't think so. But
yeah. Like, here's the thing. There's a lot of questions raised by this, but I think the biggest one, and the one that they start the episode exploring, is the idea from episode 3 that everyone at the TVA is a variant. They were all kidnapped and pulled in by the timekeepers, and their memories were wiped or stolen or something, and they were brought here. Which raised a question in me as we're going here. If everyone in the TVA is a variant, why are they destroying the variants? Do you think that maybe the whole pulling them out of time is to get the best ones who could possibly work for the TVA, and that there is no such thing as a Nexus event? Or do you think that maybe they're just taking dangerous variants simply because they could be dangerous to the Timekeeper's plans? We don't know too much about that, but a lot of the episode is focused on that idea and slowly planting that idea in the minds of Mobius and Hunter B-15, and all of this stuff leads up to a confrontation with the Timekeepers, who we see, but then they turn out to be androids. And so I was left wondering, okay, but then who created the TVA? And we don't get an answer for that because Loki and Mobius are pruned and the episode ends, and I'm like, what the fuck? Now, yeah. I stayed for
my mouth actually dropped. Well, sorry, I should say my jaw dropped, like, when I saw Mobius get pruned. I was like, no, you can't fucking do that to Jet Ski, man! fucking what the hell?
Like,
why would you do that?
That was very emotional. Like, the moment that we saw him, like, they got Loki out of the time prison, and he finally is just like, and you know where I want to go? Wherever I was before the TVA, I would have liked to jet ski, damn it. And then, like, just Owen Wilson friggin' sells it, man. Like, Owen Wilson sells it. And
Owen Wilson is such a good fucking actor.
And then there's the moment that Loki gets hit, and he's about to reveal the fact that he's in love with Sylvie, and he gets pruned, and I'm just like, there are some big jaw-dropping moments in this episode, and the end credit scene shows that Loki is still around somehow, but there's other Lokis, and there's another Thor, and like, the whole summation of this episode is clearly what in the goddamn fuck. But, yeah, like, every time you think you know what's going on, you don't really, and so I'm wondering who's behind the TVA, what really happens when they're pruned, why are they kidnapping, variants for the TVA, like, there's a lot of things that I'm questioning, because, like, if their whole task is to take care of deviants, well, not deviants, variants, why are they all variants? There's things that don't add up here.
Yeah, back to what I said during all our reviews of WandaVision. I'm not someone who usually likes mystery manga type series because usually they just leave everything till the end, and they just leave us for episode upon episode. They just leave us with nothing. Now, whereas that series, I think, remedied that by giving us a whole chunk of information, at the most appropriate moments, not just leaving everything for the final 3 episodes or whatever. This series, I feel has done a good job of swerving us at every turn, where they keep altering our perception of what is actually going on, because we get introduced to the TVA and what they are. And come the end of episode 2, or even just the end of episode 3, they've we've had no real choice but to just believe what we're shown, because what we're shown is just really fucking convincing. And because now, as we know, everyone in the TVA sees this as their reality, it's easy to see it just as reality as we know it. But then at the end of episode 3 comes, and we find out that all the workers at the TVA are variants themselves. That just changes our our view of everything. So it subverts the whole mystery box. It subverts the usual mystery box tropes by just constantly changing our perception of what's actually going on, to the point where we don't know what's going on in the best possible way. And I really like that about episode 4. I think episode 4 really handles it well. I will say episode 4 is very much my favorite episode of the series thus far, because much like, my favorite episodes of WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier, it has everything that works about the show in it. It has a bit of the action that's in there, which isn't the most prevalent thing in Loki, as has been made abundantly clear, but it still is very cool, very nice. It has the in-depth character talks and character moments that we've seen. It has all the lore explanations, which I'm not a lore guy. I have made abundantly clear so many times I am very much not a lore guy. But it is good to have it in there, as long as you're not making it the sole focus. That was my, after all, like I said last time, that was my biggest worry about Loki, about the series. That was my biggest worry. It was just going to be one big lore dump with no real character building, and I'm so happy that I've been proven wrong on that, because this show has been ripe with both character development and character growth. Character growth and character development are the same thing. I completely lost where I was going with that, but it's it's just ripe with the stuff that makes the MCU work, as opposed to the stuff that they usually keep to the side for a reason. Yeah, I really love episode 4. I think episode 4 is just great.
it's really good. Like there's so many things that I'm questioning, but it's making me look back at the entire series and being like, Loki was right from the very beginning. And it's like, the idea that we're learning things as Loki learns them, but he wasn't like fully on board even in episode 2, but now like we slowly like get, we learn big things as he learns them, and the character growth from Loki has been really big. Like, the best scene for me in this episode, aside from him learning that the timekeepers aren't real, which was a big scene, but like, my favorite scene was when he was in the time prison, and his prison was Lady Sif telling him that he was going to be alone for the rest of his life. And every single time he would try to reason with her, but when he genuinely like apologizes and talks to her and says like, just, I am a narcissist, it really hits, and you really get a chance to see Loki tick. But then also like Mobius, when he finds out that he's in love with Sylvie, is like, God damn, you are such a narcissist. The person that you fell in love with is yourself, and that entire event across time and space, that's chaos in and of itself. And it just, but I think there's a beauty in that, is that the only person that he can love is himself, because he hates himself so much. Isn't that so interesting? Like,
yeah, it is. And one thing I love about like the Sif scene you brought up is that like, I think just taking that moment, like, and by taking that moment I mean like taking the literal moment of Loki having cut Sif's hair. I feel like not the timekeepers, but the TVA, whoever's in charge, having taken that moment in Loki's life and and portraying Sif the way she is there, I feel like it's a good like amalgamation of like just how how the TVA is so like concerned on things being like this strict, and like, yeah, you are pathetic, you will always be alone, like, because that's how it's supposed to be. And like when really, if Loki were to actually say something like that to Sif, I feel like Sif would be would absolutely be like way kinder to him and be like, I mean, she would still very much be fucking angry because Loki cut her fucking hair, but like, and like Sif as she is, like knowing Sif and like how she is, she would like sympathize with Loki. It's not like just as clear and cut and dry as the TVA would make it out to be. And as much as Loki is trying to grow and grow and get better, the TVA, like, we know they haven't trusted him from the start, but they were never going to trust him because they still believe that like how things are supposed to go, Loki will always be just this like conniving evil man, and like they will. So they just have that perception that's just not going to be wiped away from them, because that's how things are supposed to be. So that's how they will always see Loki. And I feel like that moment like really encapsulates that. So I also really, really, really love that scene.
It also goes to the Nexus event, and the Nexus event was them something that nobody could possibly predict. Love blooming between two alternate reality versions of themselves that even an apocalypse couldn't stop. And that was like so beautiful and so wonderful, and it goes to show that no, just because you think it has to be this way, their love doesn't care for what you feel it has to happen. And again, another metaphor for LGBT issues is that I don't care what your beliefs are, these two people love each other, and that love is beautiful and wonderful. And I know some people have equated it, unfortunately, to things that I don't want to bring up on this podcast, but
yeah,
like, they're two different people. They're two completely different people that relate to each other, It's love. Love is love.
Yeah, it's... Yeah, yeah, this episode's just so fucking good. Like, from the moment the episode starts, and we see a young Sylvie, like, being pulled away by the TVA, especially because one of them is Ravonna, and I'm just, like, that just immediately puts you, like, in an anti-TVA, like, mood, like, man, fuck these guys.
They kidnapped her when she was, like, 7. Like, she was so young.
Yeah, and what the fuck did, like, you know, because, okay, so apparently her being a girl, like, or born a girl, didn't, like, that in of itself wasn't enough of a difference to change, like, you know, to change the timeline. Apparently it took 7 years, like, it took, like, up to, like, when she was just, a little child to, like, for enough of a change to happen that they had to come in and, like, fucking take her. It's so, like, fuck the TVA.
But they never say, she asked what the Nexus event was, and they say it wasn't important. She forgot, but that's clearly a lie.
I say fuck the TVA, but it's not really fuck the TVA because, like, I feel like everyone there is being manipulated by both Ravonna and whoever else is in charge, if there is anyone else. So it's you know.
Here's the other thing with that event. Ravonna wasn't in charge then.
Yeah.
Ravonna wasn't in charge. So it makes me wonder if she really knows what's going on, because she willingly did this thing, but, like, I don't know.
What I think maybe was happening is, like, because we see that there was, like, a different head of the TVA, like, when they go to, like, have Sylvie, like, on trial, like, the same position Ravonna was in episode 1. So what if that the main person in charge of the TVA, who was, like, of course, like, up until now we've thought that the timekeepers were, like, the main people who created the TVA and who look over the sacred timeline, but whoever, like, now we know that's not the timekeepers, but whoever that person is, they're in cahoots with the, like, the person who, like, presents as the head of the TVA, and, like, that. And, you know, and that position keeps cycling, and when Ravonna took up that part, like, that role of being, like, the judge of, like, all the trials, like, that were happening, you know, that put her in a position where it's like, okay, she can now know, like, what's going on, if that makes sense, you know?
There's just too many questions at this point to really know, but, like, the fact that she was okay with this, with kidnapping a freaking child and putting her on trial when she was that young and not capable of understanding, like, no.
Then again, these I agree, but then again, these variants are also, like, one of them doesn't know what a fucking fish is, like, and also, where's Casey now that I mentioned that? Where is Casey?
Where is Casey? I wonder.
Yeah, but, like, you know, these people don't know what a goddamn fish is, so I also wouldn't expect them to understand, like, what is, like, morally right and wrong. Like, is taking a little child away from her home when, just for something she doesn't even know she's done, like, is that morally correct? You know, I don't think that they'd be actually capable of, like, understanding something like that. So, yeah, it's...
So there's a lot of questions there. There's a lot of really big emotional payoffs.
Yeah, it doesn't make it any less fucked. But, like, at the very least, you know, we have that, so, yeah.
There's some really big emotion here. Like, I love the relationship between Sylvie and Loki, but it all builds up to a head in that final scene where, like, previously Hunter B-15 figured out through the enchantment that she had previous memories.
Yeah, like, fucking also, sorry to cut you off, Zen, there, but, like, fucking shout-outs to B-15. She was, like, the MVP of the episode. She was, like... She came in right at the end, like, right when we needed her, and, like, she fucking saved the day. Shout outs to B-15. She's, like, the GOAT of this series.
She knew that she was probably going to be pruned, but she didn't care because, like, she wants to take down the TVA because, like, she had a life. And that scene where she figures everything out, and she said she looks like she was happy and she starts crying, like, how much emotional damage and trauma have they done to all of these people?
I also saw someone say like, well, of all the places she could have brought Sylvie, it was convenient that it was like Roxxon and like and there was just so happened to be rain there, so like she gave away, you know, where she was right there. And I said, and the thing is, it was in the moment, and like Roxxon was like the last place that B-15 was. So I don't think she was really thinking about where exactly she was taking her. So I don't think that's really a big deal.
No, I don't think that was important. Like, she brought them to Roxxon because that was the last place where things had happened between her and Sylvie. I think that was important. But like just that emotional scene, that breakthrough. And here's another thing. I know people in WandaVision like to talk about how Wanda kept an entire town hostage, but this is beyond that. How many people are in the TVA who had their memories wiped and all their past erased and are forced to do stuff with the threat of being eliminated? At the very least, Wanda wasn't killing people, you know? Like, there's a lot of emotional trauma that Wanda put people through, and that's wrong. But now you have this whole thing where if people go against the grain, they're pruned, and we don't know what happens to them.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like we're gonna get a big answer to that in episode 5. Because like we see Loki got pruned and he is now in, well, we'll talk about that at the end because that's the last thing I'll talk about. Actually, we'll talk about that in just a bit because I don't think we have much else to talk about. But like,
aside we saw from Loki the fact that the Emperor has no clothes. the timekeepers, we see them, and the effect work on them are really, really good, because I initially, I was starting to believe, and then we get the head cut off and it's animatronics. I'm like, something is going on here, because what the fuck?
Initially, when I saw that, initially when she cut the head off, and they're like, because the other two were laughing initially, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, are these just you know, they're just animatronics to have here in the moment, and the timekeepers are just these you know, big, you know, cosmic entities, and that's why they're being represented through these androids, and they're out there. But no, it turns out the timekeepers just period aren't real. So yeah,
I thought somebody was actually going to appear, but because no one showed up, I'm just left, what?
Yeah, we're left at just a point of okay, Sylvie just tell me everything, and episode ends. It's just keep people there for the next episode. You can't do this to me
twice in a row.
Yeah.
Twice in a row.
Yeah. I'll be very curious to see what they do for a second season of Loki, because I thought that the entire thing was going to be okay, there's the TVA, and you know, the whole setup for the series was we go to different points in time for every episode, and we you know, focus on what's happening there during those episodes. But if we're dealing with the TVA all in just this season, what the hell's the next season gonna be like? What the hell is the next season gonna be about? But I guess we'll have probably a better idea of that after this season ends. So we'll just have to see.
Mm-hmm. There's so much good here. But I suppose we should talk about that end credit scene.
Yeah, so Loki gets pruned, and then after that happens, he wakes up in this destroyed city where apparently there's and I kind of see it. There's a broken down Avengers Tower in the background. So it's implied that this is a post-apocalyptic New York. And we see Loki wake up there, and we see a whole lot of other fucking variant Lokis. Well, mostly variant Lokis. I think the one black dude is supposed to be a variant version of Thor, but I could be wrong about that. But then everyone else is we have freaking Gator Loki there. We have an old man Loki in the original comics outfit, which I think works really, really well because, you know, those are comics from the 60s. So having literally an old man be in the comic Loki outfit, I think is just genius. And then we have Kid Loki, so add another one to the freaking roster of like potential Young Avengers candidates because Kid Loki is someone who is in Young Avengers in the comics, so there's another Young Avengers character.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that's Black Thor because he was holding Mjolnir.
Yeah.
So,
or at least a different version of it.
So at least we know Loki's okay, but where was people taken when they're pruned? And we see behind them, like, the buildings seem destroyed and abandoned, and there's something going on here, and I'm just like, okay, we have alternate universe versions of people related to Loki. So, was Mobius, like, is Mobius okay? Like, what is going on here? I don't know.
You know what? I'm still. You know, okay. I hope Mobius is okay as well. He should hopefully be, because like I don't want them to kill off Owen Wilson's character, but like he should hopefully be. You know one thing we haven't seen yet? Fucking that shot from the trailers where it's like where it's like Loki in the suit and he's like he has like the vote for me pin. It's like when does that fucking happen? Like, you know. We'll just have to see. We'll just have to see where it all goes.
We will have to wait and see. I have no idea, and I'm so glad I have no idea because it's amazing.
Yeah. We'll find out in like a little over a week because episode 5 comes out in just about 2 days. And the next week is the freaking finale of the entire thing, which is nice. Not the series finale, but the other two, it was the series finale because those were mini-series, but this is actually going to have a second season, so it's the season finale.
I'm really glad that we're getting a second season because this is so far one of my favorite series. Like, I love Captain America and the Winter Soldier. I really love what they did with it. I love WandaVision, but Loki hits so close to home, especially with the LGBT themes and just it's so good so far. But I need to know what's going on.
I'll have to see where I sit at the end of the series because right now I'd still rank it below WandaVision and Falcon, but like not by much because like all these Disney Plus shows are just really fucking good because like they're starting to delve into like stuff and like they're starting to delve into stuff that like, you know, I've wanted them to like really delve into like all this time, like, and while I'm fine with like just like the standard Marvel fare, especially like when they especially when like they can add their own their own like touch to it, like depending on what the hero is and like what the movie is, you know. I am happy that we're getting into like these more like interpersonal stories with these characters that can like go on longer because of the TV format and not, you know, just, you know, we have to condense everything because it's a movie. So yeah, I'm really loving these Disney Plus shows. I think that they were a just terrific call on you know, just to do. I mean, of course they're always going to do something on Disney Plus because, you know, but they could have done something like, you know, like say all the other MCU shows in the past which have amounted to nothing, and a lot of them now are going to probably be retconned because either they don't fit in the timeline or they're shit like Inhumans. So
I will eventually watch all of them. Currently my current focus right now is watching through all the Star Wars movies and series because I want to play The Force Unleashed for an upcoming episode of something. So like I really want to...
You can say Midnight Combo Pack, you know, we've already announced the series. It's for the
Midnight Combo Pack. I forget what it's paired with. Force Unleashed.
I think Half-Life. I think we paired it with Half-Life.
Yeah, Force Unleashed and Half-Life, and the big thing is I want to know the lore leading up to that point, even still the Legend stuff, because this takes place after Order 66, so I have to know the events leading up to Force Unleashed before I play it. That's a me thing.
Yeah, even though Force Unleashed came out before like all those other things, so it's not even going to reference them at all. But like, you know,
hey! It happened 2008. It was the same time as Clone Wars, so shush you.
Well, it happened at the same time as Clone Wars, but like Clone Wars was like barely out when like Force Unleashed came out.
Yeah.
Yeah. But with that being said, that's episode 3 and 4. You know, I think we've basically rounded out our thoughts pretty nicely. You know, I love both episodes. Zen, you know, thinks, you know, 1 is pretty good, but like the weakest so far. And then loves episode 4. Yeah.
I adore episode 4. Like,
yeah.
Basically, the way I put it is episode 4 is the best, and episode 3 is probably the weakest. But I love all of it so far. I mean, it's great action, great character stuff, and I love what they're doing with Loki.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. I think this is a good way to bring him back while honoring his death in Infinity War, because that was a good send off to the Loki that we knew from that point. So yeah. But with that being said, guys, thank you all for watching this episode of Phasing Forward. It's luckily not as long of a one as we've done the past couple of times, which is nice. I chalk that up to there not being too much to talk about with episode 3. Now, as for what's coming up next, so at the time of recording this, we are a couple of days off from Black Widow coming out, but like I have already said, we are going to do the final Loki video before we jump into Black Widow. So the way I'm thinking that we do this is the next time you see a Phasing Forward episode in your subscription feed, it will be the episode 5 and 6 review of Loki. And then after that, we'll do Black Widow. And then hopefully there's enough time before What If comes out to do the Falcon and Winter Soldier series review. So, you know, fingers crossed. And then the Loki review will happen after that, because I want to catch up. Because after we finish Loki, we not only have Black Widow, but then we also have the Falcon series review. So, you know, we'll have to see if we have time. I'm just contemplating the whole series reviews anyway, because I also want to do like at the end of the year, like the MCU in 2021 in general. So I'm thinking if we even need the series reviews, but like,
I mean,
we'll see.
I feel like if we're doing it this way, we should wait at least a long enough time for the series reviews to matter.
Yeah.
Because with WandaVision, it made sense because I wasn't around for some of the episodes, but like for Falcon, it's mostly just me saying my thoughts.
Yeah, and I still want to do Falcon. That's the main reason why I still want to do Falcon, because like you weren't able to join me for any of that, so I really want to get you like in there to give your thoughts on the series.
Other than that, though, like I mean, I feel like if it's right after we watch and do our reactions, what more can we add to it unless we bring like new stuff to the table? That's why like I prefer doing series reviews. I don't mind doing reactions. I feel like we always get oh, I was wrong about this for a lot of things.
Yeah, I think I like doing episode reviews, like, because in the moment we can get what our thoughts of where the series is at right now. Because I always like to like view that juxtaposition of like how you view a series once you've seen the entire thing versus how you view a series while it's happening, and you can have that contrast of like, you know, like how you really feel like as the series is progressing. Because once you've already seen the series, it may be a little harder to like remember like, oh, okay, like is this how I felt like while the series was happening? And like I feel like it provides like it provides like a good enough reason like to do the episode reviews, since like you can see that contrast there. So that's why I like doing them.
I mean, it really depends on your take. I prefer sitting down and scripting my thoughts and, you know, using podcasts to get them out. But, you know, episode reactions are fine too. I always feel like I get something wrong, and I will in the moment because I'm not thinking and I don't have everything pulled up, you know? I always feel like after I'm rewatching the episode, I'm like, man, I got this completely wrong. But then again, I was right about the timekeepers, at least.
Yeah, that was good. And I'm glad I was wrong about... I'm glad I was wrong about the whole Enchantress thing. It wasn't even that I was wrong. It was that I was just taking it into account. I was like, I really hope this doesn't happen. And it didn't. And I'm happy about that. And the show can keep having its gender fluid rep and still be good. But with that being said, guys...
Anyway,
go ahead.
In any case, I'm just happy we have what we have, and it's, regardless, is really good trans rep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but with that being said, we'll catch you guys next week. Well, 2 weeks from now, not next week. We'll catch you guys about 2-ish weeks from now, week and a half, depending on how fast we can get the episode 5 and 6 video done. In any case, we'll see you for that video, and then after that, we'll get Black Widow. We'll get Black Widow recorded as soon as both me and Zen have seen the movie and Loki is all wrapped up for Phasing Forward. So, with that being said, guys, I'm Philip.
I'm Zenith Warrior Princess, the cutest of buns who hates fireworks.
And we will catch you all next time on Phasing Forward. Have a good one, everybody.
Bye, and just remember, Zen is always right, except when she's wrong.